Merrick Garland is now risking being held in contempt of Congress by the House Oversight Committee after the Justice Department rejected House Republicans' request for the original audio from Special Counsel Robert Hur's probe of Biden's handling of classified documents.
With the Department of Justice asserting that, quote, the committee's interest may not be in receiving information in service of legitimate oversight or investigatory functions, but to serve political purposes that should have no role in the treatment of law enforcement files.
Here with the reaction is House Oversight Committee Chairman, the great James Comer himself. Congressman, good to see you. So I want to get your reaction. I didn't realize the Department of Justice actually determines what is legitimate and not legitimate for the House Oversight Committee to investigate. Is this shocking to you as well?
It's shocking to me that he would say something publicly like that.
Yeah.
When we all know the answer to that. You know, the Department of Justice doesn't get to dictate congressional oversight. There's supposed to be checks and balances in our system. And what we have, as you know, is a two-tier system of justice. We have an attorney general who is entitled. He represents a president who's under major investigation for public corruption. Part of that investigation of public corruption involves mishandling of classified documents. Our committee's the one that discovered that the timeline that Joe Biden testified to Robert Hur and the timeline that the White House put out about the discovery of Joe Biden's classified documents isn't consistent. So we have a lot of questions about this because we've proven that the family was influence peddling. We believe that some of those classified documents that Joe Biden mishandled, that were in his possession, strode in various locations all across the East Coast, may have been part of the influence peddling schemes that his family was involved in. And we need all of that evidence, including the audio tapes, to be able to complete our investigation.
Do Congressman proceed trying to hold the Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt?
Well, I would love to. That'll be a decision that House leadership will make. But I think it's pretty clear that if he doesn't comply with our reasonable request, with our subpoenas, then I think he should be held in contempt. And hopefully we will see our House unified in doing that. We've got to provide some accountability to this administration. This administration's out of control. And when you look at the Department of Justice and how they operate, and they operate above the law, and they go after their political opposition. What we found in our Biden influence peddling investigation is that there were cover-ups at the IRS that were led by the Department of Justice, cover-ups at the FBI led by the Department of Justice, cover-ups at the Securities and Exchange Commission and covered up by the Department of Justice. All of these government agencies were investigating the Biden family for a multitude of crimes. But yet someone with the Department of Justice always stepped in and blocked them.
No doubt about that. All right, Congressman, let's move on to this because the Democrats love to accuse others of what they themselves are the most guilty of. And here's just the latest example. Okay, Congressman Dan Goldman posting on X insisting that, quote, Trump and his allies are planning to weaponize the DOJ and abuse the tools of justice to target political enemies without evidence. Trump's Project 2025 will decimate our institutions and end democracy as we know it. Congressman, this is rich that Donald Trump would use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. That's exactly what Democrats have been doing for 3 years.
Exactly. Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin are in a race to see who the biggest hypocrite in Congress can be. Look, they know exactly what they've done with the Department of Justice in weaponizing it against conservatives and against their major political opposition. What Dan Goldman's trying to do is triangulate the issue, and that's what they do with everything. They take an issue and try to turn it around and collude with their friends in the mainstream media to create a disinformation campaign that was started by Russia, not by the Department of Justice or the deep state bureaucracies or the Democrat National Committee, but created by the Russian disinformation campaign, whoever that involves. Look, Dan Goldman is wrong. He knows. And he probably feels guilty that no one has abused the Department of Justice more than the Biden administration in going after conservatives, in blocking our investigation, in trying to prosecute Donald Trump and trying to seize his assets and trying to make him spend all of his campaign money on legal fees. I don't think any American that really understands what's going on in the Department of Justice would support it, and they certainly understand that Dan Goldman is just a big old hypocrite on this issue.
But luckily, we can always rely on Congressman Goldman to get in front of a hearing and a witness like Tony Bobulinski and completely embarrass himself. So we can always count on that, Congressman Comer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.